ever wished you could just dream up a movie and have it like actually exist? Not just storyboards, not just the script, but like full-on moving picture magic.
Yeah.
We're diving into that world today, the world of AI-generated video and audio with Meta's Movie Gen. And this isn't about slapping a filter on your vacation photos or anything like that. We're talking about creating entire scenes from scratch, from text. Imagine typing in a robot wearing a sun hat, sipping tea, strolls across a bustling Times Square,
Okay.
and then boom, you're watching that scene come to life. That's the kind of thing Movie Gen is aiming for.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Movie Gen isn't just one giant AI brain, Think of it more like a whole film crew, but AI. Each AI has its own little area of expertise. So you've got Movie Gen Video, which is handling the visuals. That's like your director. Then you've got Movie Gen Audio, which is like the sound engineer really setting the mood and everything. And it gets even more specialized, too. There are models for personalizing these scenes, for editing them. It's like a whole production team, all AI.
So not as simple as one AI to rule them all, it's different AIs working together. But before we break down this whole AI film crew, let's talk about, the brains behind it all. We keep hearing about these AI models. What does that actually mean when we're talking about something as complex as generating video?
Yeah, so imagine a network that's analyzed more video than any human ever could in a lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking massive, massive amounts of data, images, videos, you name it all, being fed into this AI.
Right.
And it's not just passively watching, like for entertainment. It's learning patterns. It's understanding how things look, how they move, how they relate to each other.
So when Movie Gen Video creates a scene, it's not just like randomly throwing pixels around.
Exactly. It has this understanding of depth, of motion, even things like camera angles that real directors use.
And when you say massive, I mean, we're talking 30 billion parameters for Movie Gen Video alone. I'm not even sure I can picture a number that big.
To put it in perspective, it's like having a library of information larger than like the entire written history of mankind. And all of that knowledge is basically being used to teach this AI how to make videos.
Wow.
And this massive scale is key here because to create something as complex as video, especially video that looks realistic, that moves naturally, the AI needs to have seen a ton of examples to learn from.
Right.
And it's not just about the quantity of the data either. It's about the quality, the variety.
Yeah. So it's one thing to train it on 1 million cat videos, but it's quite another to expose it to like the full spectrum of what video can be.
Precisely. And that's where Meta's research gets really interesting. They've really gone to great lengths to make sure that Movie Gen is learning from the best possible data.
Okay.
Think of it like assembling the ultimate film school curriculum.
Okay. So what makes it onto Movie Gen's syllabus?
Well, it's not as simple as just dumping every video on YouTube into the mix, They have a really sophisticated process for curating this training data. First, they use some basic filters, weeding out anything blurry, anything low resolution, the kind of stuff that wouldn't even make it past a film student's first critique.
Yeah, no shaky camera footage allowed.
Exactly, exactly.
So they're being picky about the visuals. What else are they looking for?
So they actually use AI to help with this part, too. They've trained algorithms to identify things like too much text on the screen,
Oh, interesting.
which wouldn't be useful for learning visual storytelling. They also filter out static scenes. Remember, Movie Gen, it's all about movement.
But it's like Movie Gen has an AI assistant director that's super strict about what footage it's allowed to learn from.
Yeah, exactly. Only the best, most visually interesting examples make the cut.
So it's quality over quantity. The goal is to create a data set that isn't just big, but is really representative of, like, the diversity of the real world. A good mix of human action, natural scenes, different camera techniques.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so we've got this massive, curated library of video. Now what? How do they actually teach Movie Gen to create its own videos?
All right, so that's where things get a little technical. Movie Gen Video uses a process called flow matching. Essentially, it starts with random noise, like static on a TV screen. And then, step by step, it learns to transform that noise into coherent images and eventually into moving scenes.
So it's like starting with a jumbled mess and then slowly molding it into something recognizable. But how does it even know what to mold it into?
That's where that training data comes in. Movie Gen is using the patterns it observed in all those millions of videos to guide its transformation of the noise.
Yeah.
Imagine a sculptor with a lump of clay. They don't just randomly start chipping away, right?
Right.
They have a vision in mind and use their tools to bring that vision to life.
And Movie Gen Video is kind of doing the same thing, but with algorithms and data instead of clay and chisels.
Exactly. And it does this over and over again, constantly comparing its creations to those real-world examples.
A process of trial and error on a massive scale.
Yeah. And with each attempt, Movie Gen Video gets a little bit better at understanding the nuances of video, how different elements interact, and how to create something that looks really natural and believable.
Okay, let's talk about what Movie Gem can actually do with all this knowledge. We've been throwing around some pretty wild concepts: robots in Times Square, personalized cameos. So let's break those down. Okay, so Movie Gen can generate these like incredible video clips, but what about the audio? A silent robot strolling through Times Square, even with a sun hat and some tea, it wouldn't be quite as impactful.
Right? The visuals definitely grab our attention, but it's the audio that really immerses us in a scene. And that's where Movie Gen Audio comes in. Just like Movie Gen Video, it's this large-scale AI model. But instead of images and videos, this one's been trained on a massive library of audio. Music, dialogue, sound effects, all meticulously categorized and tagged to give Movie Gen Audio a really deep understanding of sound.
So it's not just about matching like generic sound effects to whatever's happening on screen. It's about creating a soundscape that's as nuanced and detailed as the visuals themselves.
Exactly. Movie Gen Audio, it's designed to actually understand the emotional context of a scene and then generate audio that enhances that storytelling. So think about a scene in a bustling city, right? You wouldn't just hear the rumble of traffic. Movie Gen Audio could layer in the sounds of a distant sirens, maybe snippets of conversations, even a street musician in the background,
Yes.
blending it all together to create this really realistic, immersive soundscape.
That's incredible. It's like having an AI sound engineer who can like anticipate the mood of a scene, the feel, and then craft the perfect audio to match. But how does it know what sounds are realistic? I mean, the world is full of strange and wonderful noises.
That's what's so fascinating about Movie Gen Audio.
Right.
It doesn't just generate random sounds, it's learned to differentiate between different types of audio and even the quality of that audio. Like it can tell the difference between, say, the raw, unedited sound of someone walking on gravel. Okay. And the polished sound effect you'd hear in a Hollywood movie.
Wait, so it understands the difference between a raw recording and a professionally mastered sound mix.
Yeah, and it uses that understanding to create audio that's appropriate for the scene. So if it's generating sound for a home video, it might use those raw, unedited sounds to create a sense of authenticity.
Right.
But if it's creating a soundtrack for a big-budget action sequence, it can tap into its knowledge of those, polished, high-fidelity sounds.
That's next level. It can work with all these different audio styles, just like a human composer would. I'm really curious to hear some examples of what Movie Gen Audio can do.
Yeah, I understand. It's one thing to talk about it, but actually hearing it is a whole other experience. And that's one of the things the researchers highlighted in their paper, actually. The importance of not just evaluating Movie Gen on its technical merits, but also on its ability to, evoke emotions,
Yeah.
to create engaging experiences for the listener.
And speaking of engaging experiences, let's talk about how Movie Gen can personalize these videos. We've touched on this idea of putting yourself into the action, but how does that actually work? Is it as simple as pasting my face onto another person's body?
It's much more sophisticated than just a simple face swap. Remember how we were talking about Movie Gen Video, understanding things like depth and motion?
Yeah.
Well, the model that handles personalization, it's been trained on top of that knowledge, specifically focusing on human faces. So it's learned to recognize and understand the subtle nuances of facial features,
Yeah.
how they move, how they're affected by lighting, by perspective.
So it's not just recognizing that this is a face, it's understanding the unique geometry and movement of each individual face.
Yeah, exactly. And it uses that understanding to seamlessly integrate your face into a new scene. So it preserves your unique likeness, but it also makes sure that it looks natural within the context of the video. So you wouldn't just see your face awkwardly superimposed on a different body. You'd see yourself reacting realistically to the environment. Your expressions would match the mood of the scene.
Okay, now I'm really picturing this. Imagine generating a scene where, you're walking through a rainforest, sunlight dappling through the leaves, and Movie Gen could personalize that scene, put you right there in the middle of it, and even adjust your facial expressions to match, the awe and wonder you'd feel.
That's a great example. And the possibilities extend far beyond just putting yourself into scenic landscapes. Imagine creating personalized messages for friends and family where you're not just talking to the camera, but you're acting out a scene or even starring in your own mini movie.
Talk about a birthday greeting they'll never forget. It's like stepping into your own custom-made film.
Yeah.
But with all of these incredible capabilities, are there any limitations to what Movie Gen can do? I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true.
It's definitely a huge leap forward in AI. and the potential is mind-boggling. But it's important to remember that this technology is still in its early stages, you know? There are some limitations. For example, the videos MovieGen currently generates, they're still relatively short, like around 16 seconds at most.
Okay, so we're not talking feature-length films just yet. What about the computational power required to run these models? Is this something I'm going to need a supercomputer for?
That's another area where there's still room for improvement. Running these models does require a significant amount of computational power, more than your average laptop can handle right now. But the researchers, they're actively working on ways to make the models more efficient so that they can run on less powerful devices.
So maybe someday soon we'll all have Movie Gen studios on our phones.
It's certainly a possibility. But even with these limitations, I mean, MovieGen is really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible with AI. And it's not just about creating entertainment either. The potential applications are vast.
Okay, let's dive into those applications. We've talked about Movie Gen's potential for like entertainment and stuff, but I'm really interested in those broader applications, you know? Where else could this technology have a real impact?
Oh, the possibilities are huge. Think about education, for example. Imagine being able to create these immersive historical reenactments, where students aren't just reading about the past, they feel like they're actually there.
So instead of just seeing a static image of, like, the Roman Colosseum, students could explore a 3D recreation of it, complete with the sounds of gladiators and cheering crowds, all generated from a text prompt.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about recreating historical events either. Imagine using MovieGen to visualize complex scientific concepts, like bringing abstract ideas to life through animation and sound. It could totally revolutionize the way we learn.
And it's not just students. Think about training videos for businesses. Imagine being able to quickly create, like, custom videos that demonstrate complex procedures, or even just walk employees through a new software.
That's a really important point. MovieGen has the potential to really democratize video creation. Right now, producing high-quality video content, it requires specialized skills, expensive equipment. But with MovieGen, anyone with an idea could potentially bring that idea to life visually.
Yeah.
It opens up so many possibilities for communication, education, even artistic expression.
It's like having a Hollywood studio at your fingertips. We've also talked about MovieGen's ability to, like, edit videos using text prompts. How does that even work, and what's the potential there?
So MovieGen Edit, it's another example of the team's ingenuity. Training an AI to edit video is tricky because unlike, say, image editing, there aren't these huge data sets of like labeled video edits to learn from.
So it's not as simple as feeding the AI a million movie trailers and saying, go learn from the master.
Exactly. They had to get creative. MovieGen Edit actually uses this clever combination of knowledge. It pulls knowledge from image editing, which is a more established field for AI. And then it uses this technique called back translation.
Back translation.
Yeah, so it's kind of like learning to cook by watching someone eat a dish and then figuring out the recipe in reverse. So in this case, the AI is learning to edit videos by essentially like reversing the editing process.
So it's seeing the finished product and then like deconstructing it. Understand how it got there.
Yeah, exactly. And once it understands those principles of editing, it can apply those principles to new footage, following your text prompts to cut, transition, add special effects, all kinds of things.
So I could literally type in something like, make this scene more dramatic, add some slow motion, and maybe throw in a lens flare for good measure.
Yeah, you got it. It's like having an instant film editor right there who can just like understand your vision and translate it into action.
That's incredible. I can see how this could be a game changer for, well, filmmakers, obviously, educators, anyone who wants to tell stories with video. But, I mean, before we get too carried away with the possibilities, it's important to remember that there are potential downsides to this tech, too, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like any powerful tool, MovieGen has the potential for misuse. It's really important for developers and policymakers to really think carefully about the ethical implications and to, implement safeguards to prevent things from going wrong.
Yeah, that's a really important point. We need to be having these conversations alongside all the excitement of like, wow, look at this cool new tech. But stepping back, it really is mind-blowing to think about how far AI has come. We've gone from AI barely being able to recognize a cat in a photo to AI that can generate entire movie scenes, complete with like realistic audio, personalized cameos.
Yeah, it really speaks to like human ingenuity, this incredible collaboration between researchers, engineers, and creative thinkers. And the thing is, this is just the beginning. As these models continue to learn and evolve, who knows what they'll be able to do?
Yeah.
It's a really exciting time to be working at the intersection of AI and creativity.
It really is. And that's what we're all about here on the deep dive, right? Diving into these complex topics, exploring how they might impact our lives. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey into the future of video creation. We'll be back next week with another fascinating deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.